All right, in today's video, we're going to take a look at some arithmetic properties. And the first one we're going to start with is the order of operations. So make sure you put today's date in the upper right-hand corner. All right, so let's consider this example. We'll have 4 plus 2 times 5. So depending on how you do this problem, you might get two different answers. Let's look at the ways that people might do this problem. The first way is most people might look at that and just say, well, I'm just going to go left to right, and I'm just going to do the operations as I see them from left to right. So I'm going to rewrite the problem. I have 4 plus 2 times 5. So if I go left to right, I would add 4 plus 2 and get 6, and then times 5, and then I would get 6 times 5 is 30. So my final answer would be 30. Okay, another way you might do this problem is that there might be something that takes precedence. So what if we did the multiplication first and then did the addition? So if I have 4 plus 2 times 5, here I get 2 times 5 would be 10 because I want to do the multiplication first, and then I add 4 plus 10 and get 14. So in both ways I get two different answers, and this is a frustrating problem for mathematicians, because we want people to do the work and result with the same answer. So to combat this problem, mathematicians created what's called the order of operations. So the order of operations, you might have learned this in middle school, starts with parentheses. So parentheses or brackets are the curly braces, or sometimes you might see them as brackets. Then we have exponents. So exponents are when you have a power on a number. So for example, the exponent in this problem that I just wrote would be 2. So exponents are the little numbers. So then you look for exponents. Next, you would do multiplication and division. So we would have multiply or divide. And this is an area where a lot of people make mistakes. A lot of people think that multiplication comes before division, but when you get to a problem and you have multiplication and division happening, you just go left to right. So that's something we're going to look at as it comes up. So symbols for multiply, we have the times symbol. You can use a little x. And then even parentheses when things are next to each other is meaning to multiply. For division, you're going to use the divide by symbol, the fraction symbol, or even writing a fraction with a number above, like 8 divided by 4. That would be a division problem. So there are a couple ways to see division and a couple ways to see multiplication. And then last, we have addition, or adding, and subtracting. And the symbols for adding are just the plus sign, and subtracting is the minus sign. And same rules for adding and subtracting as multiplying and dividing. You would go left to right if it's all the operations you have left. So when you attack a problem, you start and look and see if there are any parentheses that you can do first. Once you find the parentheses, you do whatever's inside of the parentheses. After that, you look for any exponents. Then you look if you can multiply or divide, and you go left to right depending on what comes first with multiplying and dividing. Once you've completed all of those, then you can do adding or subtracting and go left to right with adding or subtracting. So if we go back to our original problem, following the order of operations that mathematicians set up and agreed upon, 4 plus 2 times 5. Going down my order of operations, I would start looking for parentheses. So there's no parentheses, so I can check that off. Then I would look for exponents. There's no exponent, so I would skip that step. Now I look if there's multiplication or division, and lo and behold, there is multiplication. So I have to multiply this part first. So the 4 stays there, doesn't change because I'm not doing anything with it. I'm going to add 4 to something once I multiply. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then now that I've done the multiplication, all I'm left with is addition. So I can add 4 plus 10 is 14. So the correct answer to that first problem should have been 14. And that's using the order of operations. So let's look at a couple examples, and then you can practice in practice 1 for this unit. So example 1, let's say I gave you this problem. 5 plus 5 divided by 2 minus 5 times 6. And on the side here, I'm just going to rewrite the order of operations so I remember what I'm doing. And notice I'm putting the A and the S and the M and the D on the same level, because remember, if that happens where you're left with multiplication or division, you just go left to right. Okay, so solving this example, the first thing I do see parentheses, because these 5 plus 5 is inside of parentheses. So I need to add 5 plus 5 and get 10. So I'm going to drop the parentheses, and now I have divided by 2, minus 5 times 6. There is no exponent, so I'm going to skip this step since I don't see an exponent. Now I'm going to go left to right with multiplying and dividing. So here's what I mean. When you see dividing and multiplying on the same line, you go left to right to complete it. So the first thing that comes up left on the left side is the dividing. So I have 10 divided by 2, which would give me 5, and then I can do the multiplication. 5 times 6 is 30. And now the last thing to do here is subtract. So my final answer should be negative 25, because 5 minus 30 is negative 25. So I have to use these order of operations to get to the correct answer with the problem that I'm using. All right, last example. I've got 1 plus 5 minus 4 plus 2 minus 3. So again, I'm going to put my order of operations on the side. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. And then I go through my steps to see if I have any of these things I need to do first. So I have parentheses. There are no parentheses in this problem, so I can go to the next step. Exponents, there's no exponents, so I can go to the next step. Multiply, divide, there's no multiply, divide, so I can go to the next step. I have add and subtract. So remember, adding and subtracting, you go left to right. So you do what comes first to the left. So I have 1 plus 5, that gives me 6, and I'm going to rewrite the rest of the problem, and then keep going. Go left to right, I have subtraction here, so 2 plus 2 minus 3. Go left to right, I have 4 minus 3, so my final answer is 1. So I just kept going left to right, and I was taking whatever operation was on the left, and all I had was adding and subtracting, so I could just keep going down that row. So that's following the order of operations. Use the symbols, the words, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. A way to help remember that is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's a way that people have learned to remember following order of operations.